At this time, we're going to move to horse racing. Can the sports of kings be revived? A lot of things I've done today is deliberate, and so is putting this agenda item at the last. The response to this question, I believe, will generate intense and perhaps heated debate. And for this reason, we have saved it for the last, so that I can clear the ring, gloves off or gloves on, so to speak, to entertain a full participative discussion on this subject. But may I permit it, therefore, to use the position I hold today to start the controversy with a resounding yes to this interesting and thought-provoking question that the sport of kings can be revived. But before proceeding, I would like to draw your attention to the mention that Minister made of the Golden Mile racing event scheduled for December the 5th.
Diamond Mile, not Golden.
Diamond Mile, huh? You know why I said golden? Because when we start off at a certain threshold, but I hear it's going up higher than that. So we have to come back down to golden to go back to diamond. Anyhow, one of our panelists will just like to quickly, perhaps for just 2 minutes, give you an expose of what you can expect in moving into this subject. So it won't be long. And but before we get rolling, I would just introduce the moderator, Mr. Howard Hamilton, President of the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association of Jamaica, and former chairman of Racing Promotion Limited and Caymanas Track Limited. He has been involved in the horse racing since 1963 as an owner and breeder. He has the distinction of having had back-to-back Derby winners in The King is Born and Distinctly Irish. Mr. Hamilton has been a champion owner and breeder for many years and is a part owner of Ham Stables. He is a recipient of the None Such Award, one of the sport's highest honors for lifetime achievement in horse racing, and is also a member of the prestigious Racing Hall of Fame. Mr. Hamilton, please welcome Mr. Hamilton to the podium.
Thank you very much, Jack, for those kind words of introduction. And a very good afternoon to you, gentlemen. We in the horse racing industry have been in the starting gates, stamping, waiting to get charged, to bring you the excitement of what we can do about the horse racing industry. I think it's fair to say that we have a special another 2-hour session of interest in front of you. And I'm glad that you're still all awake. If not, I'm sure that something will happen that will keep you awake later on. I think we all know that the racing industry throughout the world is going through so many challenges. These challenges have been brought about by the changing environment in terms of the expansion of other gaming and entertainment opportunities. And those of us in the racing industry have to come to grips with this new environment and do something about it. We are therefore very, very pleased to have with us Mr. Ed Martin, who is no stranger to Jamaica. We met some time ago at a conference in the University of Arizona up in Phoenix. And he was also our main speaker at a Hall of Fame function that was put on by the Racing Commission when it was a more proactive and more relative to racing than it is now, the Racing Commission, that is. So Ed, let me quickly introduce you. Edward Martin has been a leading figure in the regulation of horse racing in North America and parts of the Caribbean for the past 19 years. Now in his 10th year as president and CEO of the Association of Racing Commissioners International, he previously served as an executive director of New York State Racing and Wagering Board. During his tenure, the RC has advanced uniform standards for totalizer systems, wagering security, drug testing laboratories, and national medication policy. Aside from being horse racing's top cop in North America, Ed is passionate about what is right with racing. He is a strong advocate for the sport and committed to telling the positive story about racing that too many neglect. He is actively involved with key racing industry committees, including those affecting drug testing standards and practices, wagering systems, security, driver and safety, rider safety, and the education and training of racing officials. Let us therefore welcome to the podium Mr. Ed Martin.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you all this afternoon. I prepared a PowerPoint, but I'm not going to use it because I'm not sure. I want to address my remarks more specifically to some of the issues that you're facing here, and in the deference of time, I'm going to pretty much address every issue you would see in the PowerPoint. First of all, racing is in competition for the entertainment dollar. And there are many forms of gambling that people can participate in. And what I'm about to say is not meant as an insult to anybody involved in the gaming industry, because you offer a wonderful product that is exciting and fun for people who love to come in and play a game of chance. Slot machines are extremely popular, but there's not a lot of thinking that goes into sitting in front of an electronic device and pressing a button. But when you look at horse racing, you're looking at a puzzle. Every race is a puzzle, and you can play the sport at a variety of different levels. You can pick the color of the horse, the name of the horse, the number of the horse. You can bet by the trainer, you can bet by the jockey. Or you can sit down and do advanced mathematical analysis, looking at past performances, assess probability. Now let me ask you this, and with all due deference, Minister, you're a teacher. Your background is in education. And I know there was a college once let me teach a class, and they never let me come back. But, you know, if you're trying to get a point across, you have to make it interesting. What better way to teach young people mathematics, statistical analysis, probability, than expose them to horse racing? Because it's not necessarily gambling. You're using your mind, you're using your skill, you're trying to unpack a puzzle. Now, I'm not advocating that horse racing and handicapping be put on the agenda of our schools. But you know something? If you're trying to teach the kids to figure out that stuff, that is a fun way to do it. It's a fun way to do it. Now, horse racing is struggling in many parts of the world. But I will say this about your track. When you run, you've got a lot of people there. That is not true in every part of the world, and it's certainly not true at some of the tracks in the United States. I think some of the issues that were discussed earlier today that Mr. Brown talked about with CTL, moving toward the telephone betting platform, the alliances with the Jamaica Tourism Board, working to export your signal, those are good moves. Those are necessary moves. And one might argue they should have been done a long, long time ago, but that's okay, because they're happening now, and you're already starting to see the results. As I sat in the audience listening to the various presentations today, those of us that love horse racing are sometimes frustrated by it, because it's not like owning a soccer team where the owner can decide what to do with it. There are a lot of moving parts. But the advice that I have for the racing industry here in Jamaica and anywhere is we need to embrace technology. Not shy away from technology, not wait for technology. We need to embrace it. The world is changing whether we like it or not. I heard that we're not going to have money anymore. I'm going to spend what I have. We have fans, we have customers. We need to use that technology to make it easy for them to play. and we can get bogged down in writing of regulations and trying to figure out whether this is a telephone, a computer, an internet device. But I can watch movies on this, I can bet on horses on this, I can play fantasy sport, I can do all sorts of things on this, and I can call my wife, which I probably should do at some point. Exporting your signal is essential. And the key to exporting your signal is to get out and aggressively meet people who would be your customers to take your signal and distribute it in markets that you are not now penetrating and profiting and benefiting from. Now, when you do that, it's very important to have consumer confidence in the racing product and be consistent with what would be considered international integrity standards. And the Association of Racing Commissioners International, and that's what we do. We help develop those through our model rules for the various independent governmental regulatory entities that exist in racing. Our members are primarily in North America. Jamaica used to be a member, and I'd like to formally invite Jamaica to come back and join with your colleagues to the north and some to the south and west of you, because we are all in this together, and there's no issue you're going to face here that's not being faced elsewhere. And the more minds we have at the table, and the more people can rely on each other to help solve these problems is good. It's not rocket science. The other piece of advice would be special events. And you're certainly moving to do, the track is certainly moving to do that, and you're doing a good job on that. Promotions and incentives, and one of the things a lot of people say about the racing industry is that it lacks creativity. On the bus ride over, we were talking about it, and I said, you know, in many respects, horse racing is the greatest reality show that is not on television. Because when you go to the track, when you follow horse racing so often just focuses on the actual race, the gambling, the type of wager, the bloodstock of the horse. But what we don't focus on are the characters who are behind it all. Everybody in racing is unique, a unique personality, and there are stories. And what do you see when you turn on TV or you do any marketing program? By the way, at one point I used to be in charge of tourism marketing for the state of New York and the I Love New York campaign. You have to be different, memorable, funny. There was a prominent horse trainer who got into a physical entanglement with a reporter who was putting a gossip sheet out on the backstretch of one of the main New York racetracks. And the reporter took a swing at him, and this guy was about 400 pounds. Roly-poly, burly guy. You don't want to tangle with him. So this reporter takes a swing at him. And this guy takes a swing back, and his pants fall down by his ankles. Now, if somebody had thought to put that on YouTube, that would be viral. And we have maybe not as dramatic instances like that going on in the backstretch of our racetracks, but we've got rivalries between jockeys, between trainers, between owners. The personalities. And they're great people. We need to not only show the horses, we need to show the people. And that we don't do. And we don't talk about, anybody can, again, I apologize to those of you in the gaming industry. Anybody can go to the casino and see if his cards are going to come up or his number is going to come up on the roulette wheel. And there's a little player involvement because you do have to make certain decisions, red or black. But horse racing is the thinking person's sport. And you're not playing against the house where the odds are pretty much in the house's favor. You're playing against everybody else. That's pari-mutuel wagering. Now, I'm going to not take up too much more time. Be very,
That's interesting. Go on. You have another hour.
very quick. Another hour. Okay. I'm sorry. It's a cocktail party. I won't do that. You hear a lot of people sometimes talk about drugs in racing. I don't know about you, but in human medicine, the pharmacological advances that have been made, there are probably a lot of people in this room who are, for one reason or another, have to take a prescription drug for something, like maybe going to the pharmacy at 1 o'clock in the morning for ice cream. I'm just going to share with you some numbers. Is there a drug problem in racing? There is a drug problem in every competitive sport, whether it be human or equine, because when you're talking gambling or you're talking ego or you're talking award or accomplishment, somebody is going to cheat, but the cheaters are the minority. In 2013, and I apologize for not having 2014 numbers, in 2013, the racing commissions in the United States conducted about 347,000 biological samples on racehorses. Their counterparts in human sport, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, by comparison, conducted 9,197 samples. That's 37 times more drug testing being done in the United States in horse racing than there is in human sport. That might be a bit of an overstatement, but you get the picture. The entire number of samples taken worldwide in 2013 by the Worldwide Anti-Doping Agency were 294,000. The results of all of this testing are comparable. About 99.66% of the samples come back clear. And today, with the advances in science in our testing labs and the instrumentation and the automation, you can now take a blood or a urine sample, put it through the system, and screen initially for over 1,000 different substances. And you are seeing things at levels that really don't mean anything, because it's that sensitive. That doesn't mean that somebody's beating the lab. Lance Armstrong beat the lab in cycling for a long time. That's why it is very important for you to have a successful racing product. You need to have an effective racing regulatory program with drug testing that you and your customers can have confidence in, licensing that people know will keep scoundrels out. One of the greatest challenge for any racing commission, because there are so many moving parts, and this goes from people who will commit cyber crimes and tap into the tote system to change losing wagers into winning wagers. That's not theoretical. It happened. I'll remember the day it happened. It was on the Breeders' Cup when Valpone won the Classic. Somebody hit the pick six, and they had changed losing wagers into winning wagers, and it was these three guys with the help of an inside programmer at the tote company, and that's the kind of surprise a racing regulatory entity might get on any given day. We also found out in that investigation, this was in New York, that we had a program where the uncashed tickets, I didn't realize it, the uncashed winning tickets in New York State every year are about $3 million. And the way it works under their system is if nobody claims the winnings in a year, the state gets the money. Well, we found out when we were investigating the Breeders' Cup Pick 6 thing that these scoundrels were going into the tote system and basically cashing out uncashed tickets that were about 6 months old. And you know, if you've got a winning ticket at home, and if you haven't cashed it in 6 months, you know one of your kids or your wife or your husband has thrown it out on you. So you're not going to cash it. And these guys basically were stealing hundreds of thousands of US dollars this way. And we didn't even know it. So you need to have the proper level of auditing. It's very important for your racing regulatory entity to have working relationships with those that regulate veterinary medicine and those who regulate pharmacies. Racing keeps the drugs out of the horse on race day. But there is a concern worldwide that some people are not using therapeutic substances appropriately and may be overusing, overdosing, and possibly abusing some of these beautiful animals. In the US, they're struggling with the fact that there's a breakdown rate in thoroughbred racing that is higher than it is worldwide. And if we're going to protect the horses, we need to pay a little closer attention to what's going on with the veterinarians. And I don't know if you've been following the trades or following the news, but actually the Pennsylvania Racing Commission, working with law enforcement, ended up doing an investigation, and a number of veterinarians were brought up on criminal charges and were facing jail time until they got squeezed, and now they're singing. And so you know there's another shoe to drop on that. I just think that racing, the question here is, can the sport of kings be revived? There was a time this morning, Mr. Hamilton, when I thought that we would be so squeezed on time that the only thing I would have time to basically say would be, yes, of course it can. But it's going to depend not on the regulators. The regulators need to keep the game honest and work with the various factions so everybody doesn't kill each other. Because what has happened in horse racing, and I know it has happened here in Jamaica, but it has also happened in every jurisdiction I have ever had the pleasure of visiting. We have a common interest, but boy, you'd never know it some days. And we've got to just put those differences aside and realize that racing is in competition for the entertainment dollar. It is great family fun. Your kids might learn something. They're going to certainly learn a love of horses, a love of animals, animal husbandry if they're ever going to work on the backstretch. And those are good things to expose our kids to. And again, I apologize to those of you running the casinos. I took my son to the racetrack. He grew up to be a lawyer, and I don't know what I did wrong. But I tell you one thing, I had no problem taking him to the racetrack. Did I take him to the casino? No, I didn't. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you very much, Ed. You've certainly given us some room for thought, and thank you very, very much for that excellent presentation. I didn't introduce the rest of my panelists, so I'll call on them one by one to make some short presentation, not more than 1 minute. So I'll start from my extreme far left, and he'll be glad that I'm starting with him. And on the far left, Mr. Vin Edwards. Vin, I just lost your bio. I don't know how come. Vin has been involved in horse racing for over 50 years. Currently the president of Jamaica Racehorse Trainers Association, he has served in various capacities such as assistant trainer, and vice president. He is a very vocal individual who is known for his loyalty, commitment, and genuine interest in horse racing. In 2007, he was conferred with the Order of Distinction for his long and dedicated service to the industry. Vincent has a great love for politics and has served as a political representative for many years as both council and member of parliament. Vincent, welcome. You have exactly 1 minute.
1 minute, Mr. Speaker. Aye. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my good friend. Protocol observed. The racing industry, well, today I am very happy because we have gone through very technical things. I asked 12 years ago for a summit, and Mr. Peart and Mr. Daly, who is my colleague, brought it 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. It was for the trainers initially. Then the second year, he extended it to the people, and then this year it's become international. And one of the reasons why I appreciate this, that there are a lot of this population, and let me say that, is ignorant to the racing industry. If you ask the punters, when they see $50,000 turnover, how the money distributes, it goes to CTL. Most of us don't know that 80%, now it's gone on to 68, go back to the punters. So when you go to the racetrack and saying that you beat CTL, you don't beat CTL. You beat your friend, not CTL. CTL does not gamble. Now, CTL get a percentage of the turnover. They don't gamble. In 1959, Cameron's Park was built. Prior to that, one of our entrepreneurs, one of our most progressive entrepreneurs, who was a man named Issa, had a place named Natsal Park, about where New Kingston is. He made an application to subdivide it, and my leader at the time said, no, it cannot be done unless you find another racetrack. And he went over to Kemenars Park, Mr. Issa, and got Mr. Hamilton, not this one, to agree to give him 200 acres of land, which is where Kemenars Park is now. And I think he paid £25 at the time for that place. And he ran it until 1974. Another fabulous entrepreneur named Mr. Eddie Lai, Mr. Hamilton, good friend. And he ran it and decided that he's going to close it down. And the father Manley, now the son Manley, I was one of the persons who was asked to do the interview about it. When we came back and reported to him, he said, no, I do not believe in gambling. Give it to the stakeholders. And when we talk about stakeholders in Kemenars Park, it's different from those people who buy some shares. We, the stakeholders in Kemenars Park, is the owner of the production, which is a racehorse. We are not just ordinary stakeholders. And that's when I hear a lot of argument about divestment, and we have not been consulted up to now, while I see some things going around the place with some $60,000 under confidentiality. And I just want to warn Mr. Minister that I will not tolerate that And my members instructed me that to tell you here today that there can be no divestment without we are consulted officially. We have not yet. The question of racing, when you go and look at the racing industry, it costs us, that including all Mr. Howard and Mr. FS, etc., $1.322 billion to keep the 1,400 horses that is at Camel's Park. I want the ministers to understand this. And I will talk about divestment. We, and the last report I get, which I must thank the chairman, although it went put him in some trouble. We get a financial report. I got a copy, which gives us the facts of the situation. Right? So we are getting $457 million, chasing $1.3 billion, $2,000 a day for us, $1,400. Who know the maths? Work it out. It is not a business for money. And my chairman and the CEO talk about profit. It cannot be a profit industry. Mr. Howard Hamilton put a pretty name about entertainment. But what we do now is gambling. It's gambling. And therefore, down here cannot make money. Just give me a minute to do two things. First of all, most of the racetrack in the world is subsidized by casino. Secondly, when Mr. Howard Hamilton got the license to run the lotto, I said to Mr. Gonzalez, who was then the chairman of BG&L, and Mr. Krishaman, that Mr. Howard should give a certain amount of percentage, because the oldest gambling in Jamaica, it is the mother of gambling. The racehorse gambling is the mother of gambling. It is going to be competitive, and therefore we should get a percentage from it. I don't hear nothing. Then when the casino thing came, I wrote to Mr. Golding, the Prime Minister, and told him that whoever came in for the casino understood exactly, because most of the racetrack in America actually run with casino. Most of them, because it is not a business for money. You can't make money. It's a sport, and whoever come in there believe they can make money is a madman. Totally mad. You can't gamble and win no money. No gambler I know can win. Right? There are other things that we should say. Yeah. But, the time is short, and therefore, right, you could write a book, right? But anyhow, thank you very much, sir, and I hope you can get through the world.
What can I say? Vin has been Vin, as usual. I describe Vin as a dinosaur, I describe as an anachronistic dinosaur. You didn't know what I meant, right? But Vin is my good friend, and he's a special interest in racing, and he has a special heart for racing, as he felt he spoke with passion, right? If you had left him to wind up, Mr. Minister, right, you'd be here all day, because he has that passion for racing, which all of us who are involved in racing have. Some of us don't express it as well as he does. I'm now going to call on Mr. Cedric Stewart, the Chief Executive Officer. Cedric is a proven financial expert with over 20 years of experience in corporate retail investment banking, both local and internationally. His areas of expertise include wealth and debt management, project management, operations, and credit. I'm glad he is involved in wealth and debt management, because the owners are in serious debt, and we need you to manage us out of that debt immediately. Right? So if Cedric can just come and say a few words. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Howard. Good evening, everyone. Honorable Minister, other guests, all protocols observed. We have just listened to some history about Caymanas Park. I'll just spend my 1 minute to speak more futuristic and to tell you how happy we are that we have started Sunday racing and telephone betting. We believe that the way in to profitability is to grow our sales. And already in this calendar year, month over month, we have been witnessing increased, improved sales. And for that, we are grateful. We recently witnessed the power of promoting and advertising the product. Being a broke company, that aspect of business has been absent from CTL for a long time. But with improved sales and improved cash flow, we have been doing a little better. But recently, our sponsors have truly come on board, and the Guinness Classics were an example, but the true demonstration was with the running of the 95th Jamaica Derby, where Carlton Watson and Carl's Manufacturing who are here today, and we'd like to salute. Came on board in a real way and executed a promotion and advertising budget well in excess of anything Caymanas could have come up with. And our record sales on that day is directly attributed to his efforts and his commitment. And again, we salute you and we thank you. Our challenge is to do more of the same, to follow the blueprint, to advertise and promote horse racing as it has never been advertised and promoted before in Jamaica. And I'm sure, week after week, we will have the type of sales that we deserve based on the work that we are putting in. We are modernizing the track. We recently bought, thank God, a water truck, which every trainer, every owner, been asking and been begging and been praying for us to have this luck with our obsolete and antiquated machinery. But I'm here to tell you that we are getting there, and now we can say we might be getting there a little bit more faster than in the past. We will embrace technology, as our keynote speaker said. That's what we are all about. Innovativeness and technological advancement. And while we don't have the capital ourselves in this time, we are partnering with some willing other lovers of the sport, and we welcome them and we thank them. So, in closing, this management team and this board is committed to technological advancement in racing. We want to go to mobile betting, full stream. We are committed to working with our regulators, not to run ahead of them, but to walk beside them, hand in hand. And I'm sure that at the end of this financial year, the fortunes of Caymanas in the annual report would have been reversed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cedric. I think all of us who had races on Derby Day would have really seen a marvelous day. I've never in my 50-odd years of going to races seen so many people there. It was, in fact, a fantastic day of racing, and it shows what marketing and promotion can do. Can I therefore publicly suggest to CTL that they fire their marketing department and contract with Cal's Manufacturing to promote the races for them? I'm now going to call on Mr. Richard Longmore, the Acting General Manager of Jamaica Racing Commission, to just say a few words, and bearing in mind that the topic is, can the sport of kings be revived? And you can therefore address that subject and move off into other areas. Richard Longmore is the joined the Racing Commission as Director of Finance and Administration. He was promoted to the post of Acting General Manager and sits on several racing industry committees. I have one major complaint, Richard, while you're here. The Jamaica Racing Year is the one single document which records the history of racing throughout each year. I have copies going back to 1939. I'm missing 2009. For some reason, the Racing Commission has stopped producing this most important document, claiming they don't have any money, which is absolute nonsense. You must learn to manage your money properly. And the Racing Year must be published every year, right? And please ensure that the years going forward, the Racing Year is published. Thank you, Richard. Come to the podium.
All right, thank you for that introduction. Much appreciated. Minister Daly, all protocols observed. I'm here to quickly say that the racing industry is on a very challenging path, but over the past couple of years, we have seen clear indication that there has been growth and change has started. For the last 2 years, we were faced with the great challenge of introducing the whole police record regime. We regulate in excess of 1,500 stakeholders, coming from the poorest of the poor, grooms, to international representatives, owners, right across the world. After much dialogue and consultation, I can say that the racing industry has a 75 to 80% compliance rate in terms of that aspect. I think that is very good. Also, what we have seen happening over the previous year leading up to 2015 March, we have seen an increase in the whole positive findings as relates to drug testing. For the period March 2014 to the ending March 2015, we had 22 cases of positive findings, and this, over the last 11 to 15 years, this is the highest. This is record levels. As some of you would know, our drug testing is conducted through the University of the West Indies. We have placed great emphasis with them as it relates to international standards, and we are now seeing where a lot of positives are coming up, because if you look back 3-4 years in the past, we averaged 6 to 8 positives. Based on certain strategies that we have implemented, I won't go into details about them, but the underlying principle is that our international partners have outlined certain steps where now we're able to capture certain things that were being done and going on caught. So those who out there who are practicing those stuff, let it be known. We're coming at you, and there are new plans underway as it relates to capturing these things. I think that for the most part, the industry on a whole, the stakeholders have been responding well to the different incentives that we have put in place, and most recently, we have the Jockey School training program, wherein some 24 to 25 apprentices will now enter the working field. And these are some of the steps where we think that by creating the training avenue, we're able to better lead to employment for this industry. We also have the trainers program, where for those who are interested in coming into the industry as a trainer, we lead a program in which we conduct the training of those interested parties. I use this opportunity to thank all those present, and the Racing Commission will continue to regulate as fair and efficient as it can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. I thought I'd have heard you said yes, so you'll have the racing year ready for us for 2012 and 2013 and 2014 and 2015 to come. I'm now going to call on the President of the Jamaica Racehorse Owners Association, Mr. Lawrence Heffes. I asked him to give me a bio, and he gave me 3 pages of stuff, which I'm not going to read. Right, Lawrence has been President of the Owners Association for the last 6 years. And Mr. Minister, you might take a chapter out of his book. He stays in power by not having elections. Lawrence, you can come to the podium.
Thank you very much. I guess most people in racing do know me, but for those that don't, and visitors, I've been in racing brought in by my father, and I've been to the racetrack from I was age 6 till I was age 45, every single Saturday of life, just about. And it was a way of family, and it was such a joy being there, and the camaraderie with my friends that I developed there and his friends is what makes racing, what has made racing for me. It's a joy watching the horses. It's been medically proven that the horse is therapeutic. To autistic children, to children who are at risk, to youngsters who are violent, you put them with a horse, the interaction, the touch, it's calming. The horse is a majestic animal. And that said, when you ask, can racing, Sport of Kings be revived? I put it to you, the audience, if you want it to be revived. Because do you want it to be revived? Do you? Yes? Yes? Okay. And it can be revived. And it's been spoken about in terms of the technology. And as an owner representing stakeholders, we've been speaking about this for only too long. Many years ago we said, forego a purse increase for a year or two and dump that which would have given us into technology to be able to send our signal overseas. Everyone who speaks about wherever you go, if you go to Belmont, Aqueduct, Woodbine, Gulfstream, Calder, you hear the Jamaican influence so strong in these areas. If we send our product to those jurisdictions, our pool would double. And if our pool doubles, our purse doubles. And if our purse doubles, the interest in racing quadruples. And then we have what would be this circle of life, that you have greater sales, greater purses, more competitive races, and one feeds the other, and you'd have a glorious racing industry. We need to get that technology down. I was for a brief period, a part of CTF in terms of on the board. And during that time, we pointed out that one of the things we need, and that was, 10 years ago, time flies. One of the things we wanted to do was to ensure that handheld sales terminals be implemented. Because when you're sitting, eating, talking, relaxing, you may not want to get up and make a bet. But if someone comes up to you in a professional manner, hi, we want to bet on this horse today or that horse today, and he will suggest a horse to you. You may take $500, $100, $1,000, you place it on the horse, and you participate in one of the greatest events that there is, thoroughbred horse racing. But we have not done this. Why? I don't know. But it points to weaknesses in management. Now, when I speak here today, and I may speak of weaknesses, We bring them out for the intention for them to be strengthened and not for us to be saying we're arguing or quarreling. All right? And these are the things that we need to do. Technology must be embraced, as been said before. Getting our signal into the diaspora who will support it, that if our turnover doubles, we wouldn't be arguing about a price increase. It's automatic. These are the things that need to be done. We also need to ensure that our racing commission is more friendly. And when I say more friendly, we're probably one of the few jurisdictions that if you have the wrong colors on the wrong silks on your horse, you're fined. In other jurisdictions, in Florida for sure, they lend you colors to wear and they don't fine you. You may have had a situation, you had a number of horses racing on the day and you didn't have enough colors. The jockey didn't want to put them in a dirty silk, so you put them in a different silk. The trainer will provide a different silk. And it may seem trivial, but simple things like this affects the psyche of the relationship and the harmony. And let's look at not penalizing, but promoting racing. Regulating and promoting rather than look at penalizing, so that we can work hand in hand together. Hand in hand, the promoting company, the regulator, the stakeholders, so that we can make racing that much better. We also need to ensure we keep it as family entertainment. It must be kept that way. In doing that, we also have to look at the safety of all persons, of all the horses, everything that's part of racing. We in Jamaica have a chronic problem of the number of persons around the horse at the end of a race. He's tired, he's weary, he may slash out, and you have 20, 30, 40, 50 people surrounding him. It needs to stop. It must stop. You also have had a situation where, believe it or not, an owner attending the track he had a girlfriend with him, and she was wearing a very attractive skirt, and they turned her back. But on that day, they were promoting girls who were also among the horses, and about 30, 40 people around the horses inside in the winner's enclosure. That left little to the imagination. And I asked CTL to ensure this never again occurs. There must be standards, and there must be safety, and we must build the industry collectively together. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Some important points there. One, the need, and this was attempted at least 15 years ago, the simulcasting of racing to our diaspora abroad. It must be something that is pursued with a certain amount of urgency. That as a revenue generator, which in fact CTL knows they badly need. The whole question of handheld sales machines, right? These are used all over the world. You sit in comfort and a nice attractive lady comes to you. I don't mind the short skirt, right? Comes to you and you know, you can purchase a ticket right there. Those are all innovations which don't cost any money and which can be part of a whole new as we try to revive this sport. I'm going to ask, I know the minister has to leave shortly, I'm going to ask Adam, he has been already introduced to you, to come and say a few words, and then we are open to questions and any other comments which the floor wants to make.
Good afternoon. I've been here for 14 years. It's only recently in the last 3 or 4 years I've started to get into this industry. I've been a professional gambler, a bookmaker for 20 years in multiple jurisdictions all around the world. As an outsider, I can tell you this, horse racing here can be revived. It's a culture. You have people betting into a takeout of 32 to 35%. Nowhere else in the world in their right mind would they bet into that pool. So it's a culture and they will continue to bet. More knowledge and transparency about the product needs to be implemented. Getting the fringe punter into the game is the key. Too many people see the industry and the racing product with a perception of it's fixed. There's misinformation. Clockers are giving misinformation. And this is where you need to clean up the industry to get the fringe bettors, and the same issue you're going to have when you're exporting a simulcast. People betting in America aren't going to bet into such big takeouts. They're not going to bet into things that have misinformation. Pretty much here, there seems to be some issues with, there's too many claiming races for an industry so small. There seems to be some issues. You have pools of 900 horses for 82 race days per year. That's plenty of horses. But what seems to be the issue is the races aren't being conditioned to the product. And the other issues I see moving forward is obviously horse ownership. Horse ownership has a correlation to purses. Now with CTL announcing how sales are going up, obviously purses can go up too, but it needs to be made more viable. The return for an investment on a horse here, as I was shown earlier, is about 3.2% that an owner can get back for what they spend on training expenses. Generally, I think the innovative side, the creative side of it, is something that I'm looking to get into. I have an application before BGLC. I'm trying to get licensed. I look forward to working with CTL, bringing new products. They have a race at the end of the year that they're starting to promote called the Diamond Mile. What I've put together is fixed odds betting. So a product like myself could have, for example, put up odds where you could bet on the race now and get bigger odds than you would on the race day. For example, to start the book, you might have Big Man in Town at 8-1, Princess Popstar at 12s, Commanding Chief at 12s, 14s Typewriter, 20s Alibaba, similar for Seeking My Dream. These are items that can get the interest building from now towards that race 3-6 months in advance, like they do with Kentucky Derby and other futures around the world. As I said, I see this industry as, because it's a culture, there is so much growth available. I'm not, as an outsider, I'm not privy to all the details or information, but I have spent the last 3 to 4 years sitting with trainers, sitting with jockeys, sitting with a guy that bets $10 at the racetrack and just listening and just taking it in, so that when I decide to pursue this, if and when I become a stakeholder or licensee in the industry, that I can implement these things that I see as large gaps in the market. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Adam. And most interesting, that aspect of bookmaking as it really is and ought to be. What we have in Jamaica is bet writers, not bookmakers. The Minister of Finance loves them because they earn 30% and they can therefore pay tax. The poor promoting company operates at a loss, therefore they can't pay the tax, so they don't love us, they love the bookmakers. Anyhow, that a question of a future book is something which I've always advocated and which hopefully we can get your license operated and going very soon, so I can start betting and losing my money on betting on the horses in the future instead of in the present. Now we're now going to open it to the floor. Could you just stand up, say who you are, and direct your question to the person who you wish to have it answered, please? Or comments or suggestions? Yes.
Amount of money, the percentage being taken out of the pools. And he said there is nowhere in the world that any punter would gamble with our percentage of 35%, 40, 30, 25. I know the company is in real problem now, but maybe 6 months from now when we are out of the hole or we are out of the woods, would your company revisit the money that is being taken from the pool?
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Welch, for your question. Yes, we are always open to revisit, look at the takeout. In fact, we considered it and we're looking at it even now at the board level. Howard gave us a paper
we are committed to exporting our signal. And one of the preconditions to exporting the signal will be some adjustment to the takeout. So it is under active consideration.
You know, Mr. Minister, if I could just add to that, I've never come across people as stubborn as the CTL people. We have brought experts from abroad. We have brought experts from abroad who have come down and explained to him that the takeout, the more you take out is the less money you make. The less you take out is the more you make. They sat and explained to them. I've sat and given them figures, proved it to them, and my God in heaven, they won't change. Back in 2005, I had them change, they'd moved from 30% to 25%, and the sales had gone up by about 30%. Just by 5%, you know. And they were about to do it down to 20% now when the board changed, right? And of course, an accountant came in charge then, and he can't say anything other than a blind focus this way, right? Right? And of course, it changed back up to 30, and the result is what you have now. You can't turn over properly, right? And the churn effect, they miss entirely the churn effect. I'm sick and tired of writing them and telling them about it. You direct them, no? Direct them as minister, right? Direct them as minister, change it.
To be fair though, this board and this management, we have engaged you. So, you know, you're probably talking and dating 5-6 years ago. But certainly in the last year and a half, we have engaged you and we are looking at it. Now that we have seen results in terms of increasing sales, that will make things much easier. Yeah.
All right, Michael, your time.
Yes. Do I need to introduce myself? Okay. Yeah. I'm Michael Bernard, owner and breeder of horses in Jamaica. My comment or question is for the minister, the chairman of BGLC and the Racing Commission, the chairman of CTL and the CEO. We hear quite a bit about the quality of management at Caymanas Park, primarily in terms of management of the racing operations. And whether Caymanas or horse racing in Jamaica is going to be managed and owned and operated by public or private, we need to ensure that there is continuity and that the industry is operated in the best interest of all stakeholders. I am proposing, Minister, that you look to set up 2 scholarships, perhaps one tenable in the British Commonwealth, Australia or England, and the other in North America, to allow 2 Jamaicans to pursue studies, primarily, I would say, a master's degree in racetrack management. And we have graduates from University of Technology and University of West Indies Hospitality Management and business and so forth. And I'm asking you to place particular emphasis on this because the continuity and the sustainability of the racing product in Jamaica is dependent on good management, and more so, I believe there is not a strong bench at Caymanas. We have Cedric and Denzel. I don't know what else exists in terms of quality of management. And I'm not saying that the quality of that management of which I spoke to is where we want it to be, you know. But I'm just saying in terms of assistance in that area, for continuity purposes, we need to get people trained, and maybe they can have internship in the United States or wherever afterwards and then come back to us to provide the necessary human resource that we need in order to have a viable industry. So please, you mentioned earlier, Mr. Minister, that last time you had this summit, there were some recommendations made, and you made good on them. I'm asking you to place particular emphasis on this one, sir.
Let me recommend the program at the University of Arizona in Tucson.
Mr. Chairman.
Right?
Mr. Chairman, I support Mr. Bernard's position totally. What we have gone through today by the lady beside you here, the technological situation, I would recommend to the minister to support the Gaming Commission, not even CTL too much, to actually have a technological policy. Because if we are to go through that, we have nobody in Jamaica who understands it. Right? So I totally support that. We don't have the skill to implement what we are seeing here today. And let's face facts, that these technological things are the right thing for the convenience of everything. The other point I would like to make, and me and my chairman may have a dispute. I have not heard nothing from morning about the culture. No enforcement of culture. One Prime Minister recommended culture some time ago. The question of paying back 80%. I'm not a gambler. Some of you surprised, 50 years and from 1972 I don't gamble. Right? Who do we have go to the track in Jamaica? When, look at use Derby Day, when the bus, because I'm a detail man, when the bus come and the people came off the bus, 30% come hustle. We're not talking about an economic society that is firm. The another 25% come because their children's school fee or their rent, right? Now, that 25%, when they win, they either buy peanut and a Pepsi and say, boy, I win this and not going back. We don't want 30% that we re-gamble. Chris Harman tried it. I opposed it from it came. It can't work in Jamaica. I'm not quarreling Mr. Hamilton. But if you go and equate Jamaica with the other economy that is much sounder, then we are in trouble. That 80% will send her down to the grave. And it was Ralph, what the man named was the CEO, right? Raphael Garden, who went away because he also opposed it. And when Chris did it, it sales went down to nothing. You cannot, and I would agree if you pay out 90%, but in Jamaica, with our culture and attitude, don't deal with that now.
Just suck it and see now. Just try it and see what happens. Try it and see what. If after 6 months it doesn't work, you go back. In fact, when I was fortunate enough to have the lottery company, I offered to give CTL whatever money they lost, right? Make up whatever they lost if they had reduced that takeout from 30% down to 20%. And I said, whatever money you lose, I'll make it up to you. And my God in heaven doesn't sit down there and know anything about it. Anyhow. Anyhow, your time, sir.
Good afternoon. Are you hearing? I don't know Cayman as Spark, but I must say I know a little more about mathematics than Cayman as Spark. I was in Morant Bay some years back and listening to this conversation. I did not speak. I only was a listener. And the reason I'm relating this is a credit to Mr. Martin's presentation. And a teacher was saying that she was doing a course conducting the session on mathematics, and one of the boys was not paying any attention and said, "Miss, I don't have to learn maths, you know, because when I grow up, I'm going to be a jockey." The teacher did not contradict, but the insightful teacher said, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to arrange a trip to Cayman as Spark to find out if in that environment you have to know anything about maths." And that was arranged. The teacher arranged a trip to the park. And lo and behold, they were overwhelmed by the amount of, let's say, mathematically related things that resourcing deals with. And that is the way that she was able to convince that boy and return with important stories to tell the other children. So it is a credit to a point made by Mr. Martin.
Thank you very much for that observation, sir. Turn on the microphone now.
Good day, everybody. My name is Michael Kane. I'm speaking here in the capacity of an OTB operator. And we understand, as mentioned earlier by the chairman of CTL, the gap on the capital side of CTL. However, as an OTB operator, there's a financial gap also on the overhead expenses side. And operating solely as a Caymanas off-track, and given the income is generated on sales, commission of sales, right? The commission is a mere 5.5% on local racing and 7%, a little better, 7% on simulcast. Now that's an average of 6.25% between local and simulcast sales, which is quite low, to say the least. Now, in the present state of affairs at Caymanas Track Limited, it is merely improbable or impossible to ask for an increase in sales commission. However, in hearing all these things about the technological way we're going to go with the tele-betting and all sorts of other stuff, what is going to happen at the off-track betting parlors? Nobody who's going to walk into the betting parlors, given that they have all this access to technology, to just go on their phones, tablets, whatever, and make bets. It's going to directly affect the sales at the off-track betting parlors. Now, as I said, not asking for an increase in the commission. What I'm asking for on behalf of all OTBs across the island, except 60 of us, right, is that OTBs be restructured in such a way and presented to the betting public as a one-stop shop for many forms of betting, not only on horse racing, but on the sports betting, which as mentioned, an increase of 30%, as Minister Daly had mentioned some time ago, and sports betting as well as other means of betting, such as cash pot, supreme bets, as lotteries. So an off-track wouldn't just be for horse racing alone. At a mere 6.25%, it would be a one-stop shop. So you come into the off-track, you can bet on the horses, you can win money from the horses, you can bet on cash pot, win money on cash pot, bet on horses, vice versa, bet on sports, everything. So that will drive the viability of the off-track, right, to be better be able to meet our expenses and realize somewhat of a profit. So that's basically what I'd like to see for the near future for the off-track betting parlors at Caymanas Track Limited.
I'm not going to speak for that.
Just want to thank all those who have attended today. Some of you are here from 8:30 along with me. Some of you came late, some have left because their topic has been taken. I'd like to commend all those who have remained behind to the final stage of the summit. I have to go because I'd indicated that I have to go at 4:30 because I have another engagement that I'm going to right now. But I would just like to thank all those persons who have presented, who have participated, and the suggestions that have come. As I said this morning, we are open. Our administration is open to the suggestions to make the gaming industry a better, attractive, profitable place for people to invest in. And we have to look at all the possibilities for that to happen. I just want to say to the OTB operators, you know, when I was a young man, I used to know some people who came around and sold encyclopedias. And for every, as a rural man, I don't know if it happened in Kingston, but every rural family, their aim would be your parents to buy a set for your family, for your kids to study. But I don't see them selling encyclopedia anymore because I can just get anything I want on the internet. Our kids have smartphone and laptops and so on and so forth. So while people might not physically walk into your your OTB. We don't want to see the OTB die now. So their last point is correct. We have to find ways and means to be able to generate and have more options if you have to go to the OTB. And therefore, there's no way we are going to escape the modernization of gaming in Jamaica. That is where the world is heading. We have to get online betting. We have to get people. People are just, the world is moving so fast and we can't be left behind. So anything we have to do to ensure that we modernize the track, that we modernize the product, that we revisit the signals, that we look at the takeout to make it profitable and attractive. And attractive for family members and people say, we want to go to Cayman's Rock on a Saturday or a Sunday. We give you Sunday betting. The church complain. Now we say, let's take the decision. And you want to have race on a Sunday? Go have race on a Sunday. You want to sell that on a Sunday? Go sell that on a Sunday. I see people coming from church and go buy a lotto. Line up with the Bible in the hand, praise the Lord, and buying a ticket. I see it. And sometimes maybe the winning number. So we're not close to suggestion. But how many Sunday races have we have? We don't even have enough horses to run on to a road.
We have more than enough horses.
So
we don't have the imagination of the promoters to put it on.
We don't have more Sunday races. Anyway, I'm saying I don't want to quarrel with you or because I can't win with you. But I'm saying I'm happy for all the suggestions. We are open for business. The Ministry of Finance and Planning, the government of Jamaica is open for business. Thank you very much. And
Mr. Minister,
but don't close because I go. Yes.
let us thank you very much for the interest you have shown.
Yes.
For you to spend all day here with the problems you have with the public workers, right? And let me also thank you for the initiative you took with respect to the breeding industry and what you have done for us there. Now we are getting the breeders subsidy program now, or we are getting subsidized duty on horses, all thanks to you and the interest you have shown, sir. And continue it, right? This is the finest industry in the world, and will produce more and more revenue for over time, so don't worry about it. If there are no further questions, can I now hand back to the... Yes, sorry. I'll take two more.
Yeah, what I would like to know, Derek Rogers, press. I would like to know if there's any plan that the CTL have in terms of the increased revenue in going forward, regionally.
You want to answer
Plans
that?
are product.
Is that one related to? Who's that, Vin?
Yeah.
You're so quiet.
Okay.
Yes.
I have been listening, and one of the things I haven't heard anything about, and which I consider to be absolutely essential, if you are going to satisfy this question, can the sport of kings be revived? My answer is yes, and I got the distinct feeling and satisfaction that it can be out of last Saturday's Derby day. Part of that came from the whole feeling that everybody has, oh yes, we're going to buy horses, we're going to do that. A lot of that came from, and he has gotten a tremendous amount of credit for what he has done, Mr. Watson. And he really went overboard and made a tremendous contribution to advertising the day. I would like to suggest that you would not have got the total satisfaction that we got out of it had we not had that party stand. Because the people that went into that party stand and enjoyed themselves are the people that you've been saying, we haven't seen these people at racing and so on. Now that party stand, we should give credit to the person who did that work and built that. And that is Andrew Azar, who built that out of his pocket, not a penny from CTL or BGLC. And that, I think, points to the need for accommodation and a certain element. I give you, you say it, and it's necessary. a little bit of elitism in your accommodation at the track. Without that, you're not going to attract the sort of people who are going to spend money to buy young horses and who have the money to do that. We are going to have to think in terms of some other changes to go along with that. The claiming system. What we have is a selling system, not
Correct.
a claiming system.
Correct.
We bastardize it. And that has driven a lot of the sort of people that you want back into racing out of racing. That's one. You've got to think also, I think, to move from that claiming back to a form of handicapping, whether you like it or not. And we have to send some people abroad, train them in handicapping, and bring them back into the system. You're going to need that. And the other thing that I had seen developing, it started, it is making strides, you need to do it more. The whole idea that bringing those bookmakers in, putting your machines with the bookmakers, etc. It seems to be working. You need to get that going, because over the years that I've been in racing, we have talked about tooth monopoly. From the 70s, there was some question of tooth monopoly. But at that stage, Baba Chin and Mr. Gentleman from Mandeville was too strong. Forget tooth monopoly. But you need some element of that in racing to bring in the cash that you're talking about, that you need. So, again, giving some, Mr. Bernard, sending some people abroad for training, yes. Getting some people down to do things like farrier, some courses in farrier work. Absolutely essential, because our horses are being matched up with some standard of care.
Thank you very much, Vin. All those suggestions were worth it. The question down the bottom, you want to answer that question?
Yes. As I've alluded to when I spoke earlier, with increased sales and increased cash flow, we have the possibility now of doing so much more. We have announced the great sponsorship that the BGLC and the GRC has come up with for this Diamond Mile. We are gonna hype up, elevate the prestige of all our feature races, and we certainly inviting sponsors to come out with innovative ideas to run more high-profile race days, whereby we will be able to attract a bigger crowd, a nicer crowd. Vin just spoke about our party stand, which was recently opened. Derby Day was the first day that it really worked, with patrons paying to go there. Now, it's a lovely place, and we're going to promote it. We're going to do much more promotion of what we do down there. Turning Caymanas track into an entertainment center is working. The success that we have had with the Artists of the Month promotion and whenever entertainers are there is assisting our revenues. So we're going to do much more of the same in promoting and doing the new things that have been bringing us greater revenues.
Thank you very much, Cedric.
I'm not satisfied with the answer. I am looking at something to develop regionally. That's what I'm looking at. You can market CTN regionally to earn external revenue.
No, but we have mentioned that already. We are seeking to export our signal.
We want people from all over to be able to bet on races at Caymanas Park. That will take some doing. We're in the process of that. We are actively in it.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me thank the members of my panel. In particular, I want to thank Ed Martin for setting the tone with an excellent opening presentation. And thank you all the rest of the panel here for the presentation and the support you made. And thank you, the audience, for the interest that you've shown in staying back behind to this most important section of this conference. And thank the BDCNL for allowing the horse people to have a focal voice here in your gallery.